What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Eclectic Collector channel. So it's been a minute since I did a let's talk about sort of a styled video, and though this is not called let's talk about in the typical sense of those videos that I usually do on this channel, this is a series that I read pretty recently. This is released by a Square Enix manga. It debuted initially in Japanese, I think in 2022. So this is something that I really enjoyed. There's only one volume of it out so far, but having read the first volume, I liked it enough that I wanted to do a video about it. And even before, doing this, I talked about it in my haul video that I did for, I think like January, February. I think I talked about it in that haul. And yeah, I think I'd said in that haul that this is going to be something that I felt like I was really going to enjoy, that it was like right up my alley. And sure enough, it really was like up my alley in terms of things that I enjoy. And it kind of reminded me of another series that I'll talk about when I go through and show you panels from this manga. So if you've read Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You, I'd love to know your thoughts about it. I definitely highly enjoyed it, and I'm excited to do this video and to talk about the series with you all. So stick around. Hopefully this video doesn't get too long, since my videos lately have become extremely long. But yeah, let's jump into this. Let's check out some panels, and let's see what I thought about this. Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You by Jin Nushi is so far one of my favorite English manga debuts of 2024. It began serialization in 2022 under the original Japanese title Supa no Ura de Yani su Futari. I just want to say that I loved this first volume. As someone who has worked customer service in various jobs, it can be ridiculously stressful having to deal with people day in and day out. You have to smile constantly and pretend like you actually care about whatever asinine problem they're complaining to you about. I've had towels thrown in my face. I've been screamed at and belittled. I've had customers talk to me like they were talking to a dog. Then you learn through interactions with other people in similar situations that you're not the only one going through it. Every friend of mine who has ever worked a customer-oriented job has horror stories. From a girl telling me she was on the line with a customer screaming at her to tell the on-site technician to get off of his property before he came out blasting. That is a true story, by the way. To another friend that worked at a clothing shop where he said hello and welcome to a customer who then tried to fight him for little more than acknowledging him. Never really understood what it is about customer service jobs that people think they can treat you however they want, as if you're their punching bag. It is extremely exhausting at times, and you need a release. For some people, that comes in the form of a cigarette. For middle-aged office worker Sasaki, it's like his own little slice of heaven. He goes to his favorite cashier at register number 2, seeing the smile of the youthful 20-something Miss Yamada brightens his post-work day. Aside from the cigarette, it offers its own relief. It doesn't matter if the other registers have less people. He always, without fail, queues up at Miss Yamada's register. She always wears the same bright smile and cheerful disposition he so adores. You can tell just by looking at him how beat to a pulp this man is, and it's something I can personally relate to. I think a lot of other people can too, feeling disheveled, exhausted all the time. It makes Miss Yamada's indomitable spirit all the better as a cure-all for his woes. No matter how burned out Sasaki is, seeing her smiling, it's like a second wind. Sasaki soon strikes up a friendship with another girl named Tamaya, who works at the same supermarket as Miss Yamada. She invites him to smoke with her behind the supermarket one night, and it soon becomes a regular occurrence. Sasaki picks up his groceries inside and then goes outside and is soon met by Miss Tamaya. Somehow he just does not put two and two together. The girl who always smiles at him in line when it's his turn to be rung up, and the girl outside sharing cigarettes with him have something in common, though their outward appearances may differ. Miss Yamada wears a bandana to keep her hair neat, and for the most part, she looks like a nice, wholesome young woman. Then Miss Tamaya is like this edgy rocker girl looking sort of a person. She wears dark stockings and has piercings, doesn't smile, and her hair is long, plus she smokes. There is just one thing Sasaki doesn't seem to realize about these girls, and it isn't much of a spoiler because it's on the back cover. They're literally the same person. This story definitely caught me off guard. I'm not really sure, what I was expecting going into smoking behind the supermarket with you, but I definitely really enjoyed it. I like these characters a lot. You know what I mean? Like, at one point in my life, I'm in my mid 30s now, but at one point in my life, when I was a teenager into like my early 20s, like 22, 23, I'd smoked. So I'd smoked for a really long time. I started smoking before, like the legal smoking age. Unfortunately, it's kind of a shame, and I've since stopped smoking. It's been a long time since, I gave up smoking. But I started when I was a teenager, like mid-teens, I started smoking, and then I stopped smoking when I was like in my early 20s. And that's definitely not, to me personally, I don't think it's a great habit to have, if you're a smoker, if, whatever. It's none of my business, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to hate on anybody for indulging or for vaping or whatever. A lot of the guys that I work with, do vape or do smoke or whatever. So I'm not like, trying to shun anybody or make anybody feel bad about it. But, it's interesting to me, that somebody could literally take smoking and write a whole series around smoking, and like every chapter, like every other page or every chapter or whatever, there's a lit cigarette. Like there's lit cigarettes on almost every single page of this manga, and it's the story within is done well. So it's pretty wild to me that you could take a story that is about two people smoking behind a supermarket, and it's not like vapid. It is for the most part, like the premise is pretty simple. That it is that they're smoking behind the supermarket or whatever, but it's actually a really good story. The characters are entertaining enough that you have this premise, like a Seinfeld, a show about nothing. You have this premise about these two people smoking, and they're able to have conversations, that aren't just about the smoking, but around, their lives or whatever, the things they got going on, the relief that smoking brings to them after a long day of work. Kind of reminds me of like a lot of like the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, types of like movies, TV shows, whatever. Like there was this movie called 100 Cigarettes or 200 Cigarettes. I can't remember what the actual title of it was. I'll put it over here. Reminds me of the Nicolas Cage movie, which is one of my favorite films ever. I think it's Bring Out Your Dad, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what it's called. I'm terrible sometimes with some film names, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, Bring Out Your Dad. Or he plays like an EMT or something. That movie is one of my absolute favorites ever because I'm a person that suffers from like anxiety, and I'm always like really tired and always really stressed out. And like that whole movie is just Nicolas Cage just being really stressed out, and he's got like rings under his eyes, and that's kind of what this dude right here reminds me of. Sasaki reminds me of that, and she's a lot of fun too. Yamada, she's a lot of fun. She's a great character, and I feel like in some way or another, as adults, we can relate to these characters, whether you're a smoker or not. I am no longer a smoker. I haven't smoked a cigarette in probably like more than 10 years. And it's definitely something that I think a lot of people can relate to, just being an adult, being out in the world and feeling something, having that one thing that you have in your life that helps you take the edge off of, whatever you got going on. You know what I mean? I've worked jobs where I've hidden my tattoos and had to keep short hair and shave regularly. You have your uniform and effectively you have to look presentable. At work, you are this one person. You look and dress for the job. Outside of it, you are the person who you truly encompass. Your personality and outward appearance change. This feels like the most logical explanation as to why Sasaki doesn't realize Miss Yamada and Miss Tamaya are the same person. They're polar opposites. This story reminds me of things like the movie My First Mister and the manga series by Jun Mayuzuki, After the Rain, based on the ages of the characters in this story. It also reminds me of the other series by Mayuzuki sensei, Kowloon Generic Romance, because of the heavy smoking aspect of the series. It's literally two people smoking behind a supermarket. That's the whole series. It's actually really good though. All the characters involved were pretty well fleshed out, including Yamada's manager, to the point I wanted to keep hanging out with them. I enjoyed the time Miss Yamada spent with Sasaki while she pretended to be this person named Tamaya. Their chemistry is pretty solid. The mangaka Jinushi sensei really killed it with this one. When Miss Yamada complains about getting in trouble for smelling like smoke because a customer didn't like it, Sasaki replies with, "That sounds lonely. Losing faith in someone you think is great. The second you find out they have another side, both sides are part of the same person, after all." That line is also kind of funny when you think about it, because Sasaki thinks Yamada and Tamaya are two completely different people despite looking exactly alike. As much as I like him as a character, the dude is such a goofball. It's to the point Miss Yamada refers to him as Dense Saki. One thing I do like is that he has no ulterior motives. He isn't trying to have sex with Yamada, who when smoking together he thinks is Tamaya. He's not a creep or a perv. He just enjoys their time together, the companionship. I have no idea what comes next, where it will go, or how these characters will grow. It does feel like there is a burgeoning romance that may or may not take place. Regardless, as a non-smoker, I'll be happy to continue being a fly on the wall behind the supermarket as these characters live their lives, one lit cigarette at a time.
Yo, it's himself, the Shadowrunners clique, aka Sleep All Out. Take you on a mental and live for one day, y'all. Sheets, y'all. Guns, y'all. Yo, who got the guns, who got the coke? Hustling them through like big punch cholesterol before he croak. Rest in peace, but a blessed peace and live to one day lay in shoots. Rap over beats and tell wild stories, the mythology mystery. Choke on your own misery, fuck them, we're the wild bunch. Yo, I asked him if this bike could punch. This shit made me lose my lunch. Bro grabbed the rocket, I said chill before he cocked it.